Hey everybody, welcome back to another, let me get it. I almost said series. Hey everybody, welcome back to a new episode of Bridging the Gap. My name's Byron Nash. Got my buddy Jack Hunt, aka Johnny Angel here. We're so happy to be back here talking about all things music. Just what we love, passion, music.
and that is our passion. And it's kind of cool because we like to open it up with a question to each of us.
Yeah.
And, the question I want to ask you is, what was the big change in music that it sparked your career, or it sparked a change in music for you? What was like a turning point?
I think because I like to study music history, but also, I was a fan before I was a musician.
Yes.
I guess I was a musician in my soul, but I didn't become one until later. But I would say the start of MTV and music videos, because that was the first time you really got an opportunity to, one, you could see artists scale, right?
Yes.
And you can see them outside of the context of how you're relating to their music when you only were listening. So now, as soon as there's a visual to it, it kind of made it more colorized and bigger and
Absolutely.
just more over the top. And then watching what that did for like just the music industry in general. So being around, old enough to, first video was, Bungles or something like that. Video killed the radio star.
Yeah, that's right.
And then everything from that. And
Yeah.
then how it became more sophisticated. And then it became like you had to have a music
Absolutely.
video. For me, that was one step closer to wanting to become those things. So seeing Michael Jackson, seeing Prince, seeing Hall & Oates, seeing all these like artists that, Cyndi Lauper, Madonna, those things really had some major impact on me. So for me, I think career-wise, that was a little spark that made me want to do that. But also, I think it changed what happened in music history altogether.
It sure did.
Yeah. How about you?
Mine probably was, I was a stubborn musician, so I would only listen to one genre. And if it wasn't played on the radio, I wasn't really listened to. But at that era, there was an FM radio. And then all of a sudden, FM kicked in. And there was this concert called Woodstock. And all of a sudden, there were all these different genres of music, including oldies, because you look at Shondells coming up and doing a kickback there, right?
Yeah.
And you have Jimi Hendrix on there, and you have just a plethora of rock and roll artists. And so it really had an impact on the career, because I was fighting with our guys about what direction we were going to go.
Yeah.
And I was straight soul all the way and wouldn't even consider. And then in '69, right after Woodstock, I was in a hard rock group called Harambe. I played drums for Harambe. And of course, I had to grow my hair and a whole bit. And from the DA to long hair, it was crazy.
Interesting. So do you feel like Woodstock was a turning point for music in general because it brought so many genres together under one platform? Because now we have music festivals all over the world, right? But was that more of a European thing first before it happened in New York? Like, did big festivals kind of start more in Europe than they did here?
They may have, to my knowledge, Europe actually copied just about everything that happened in the States. So I would be surprised if it weren't the other way around. But I'm not the expert on that, because again, that music to me was not something I would push forward to.
Yeah.
AM radio is all we had. And I had to sneak to listen to rhythm and blues because it wasn't played on regular radio, So it was kind of cool.
It's interesting. What I do like about that is that it makes you a more well-rounded listener.
Yes.
I go to music festivals, and I love that I can hear something kind of heavy over here, and then hear an acoustic artist over there, because I actually enjoy all of those things. But I still feel like Woodstock was sort of the catalyst for
I agree with that.
people being more broad and interested in music. So.
But I had to learn how to play rock music because I was trained as a jazz or soul drummer.
Interesting.
And when you listen to rock and roll, it's not the same type. Soul music, and it has a lot of fill.
Yeah.
And it has a lot of free left hand up to the bass drum. Where rock and roll is driving.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
The drums are pushing everything.
Yes. Yeah. And I had to literally change my style of playing when I was in Harambe.
Yeah.
Until we went back to being Johnny Angel and the Halos, and then of course.
Do you feel that rock experience made you a better R&B player?
Yeah, I had to experience it. I had to know it to experience it, and so it taught me a different way of playing and different style. So now in life, when I do a jam band or whatever, it doesn't matter what song they call up.
Yeah.
I even played in a jam band with Joe Monroe, who is with the Ghosts now and touring with them. And we did Inagata Davida, and I did the full solo on that, which is, you know, so it's kind of cool because I would have never played something like that.
Right.
And if you listen to Inagata Davida, and then of course the Beatles, when you listen to Ringo Starr's ending of The End, it's almost the same beginning of Inagata Davida.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's kind of neat.
The application's kind of the same. So speaking of listening to a lot of music, what have you been rocking this week?
Well, this week I did something a little bit different. I was listening to this group here, which is the Young Rascals.
Tell me about it.
And the Rascals were kind of a neat group for me because they were more of a blue-eyed soul group that was doing rock and roll.
Okay.
And our guest today was in a group that is similar, and they were called Tommy James and the Shondells, and my guest is Mike Vale, our guest, right? And this is what the reason it's so crazy is before when they released their first album, the Shondells did a lot of soul records that they were playing in the clubs and re-released them on their albums, but so did the Young Rascals.
Was there a comparison? Were they similar? Like, did people mix them up at all?
No.
Okay.
The thing that's crazy about them is their sound is completely different, even though their roots were the same.
Oh.
And you knew immediately when you heard a Shondells record, or immediately if you heard a Rascals record.
What was the standout thing about them?
Stand out. I think that this had more of a. I like to look at it like when psychedelics came out. Remember those styles that changed. They had a plethora of different styles that were here, even though they had a soul background.
Yeah.
It's same with these guys. When you think of the Rascals, they actually started with Joey D, who did the Peppermint Twist.
Okay.
And two of them actually played in Joey D's band, you know. And you listen to the Shondells, they were actually, which we'll get into, is the Raconteurs, which was a Pittsburgh group. So there's kind of a close resemblance there, but yet completely different.
I love that. What year is this?
I believe Crimson and Clover would be...
Like 60s or something?
68.
Okay.
1968.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
I have been completely being a nerd. What's new? So, backstory, the Science Center has a guitar exhibit, and it's like a bunch of guitars from all over the world, and it's like the history of guitar, and they invited me to be the first artist to like kick it off.
Nice.
And so it made me kind of go back and listen, because there's a Chet Atkins video. So I pulled out this Chet Atkins, and you know, there's a rawness to the people who play as well as this. I mean, you're kind of just like, it's just plugged in and you're just killing it. And that blows my mind, because it's very easy to get caught up in like pedals and technology and all the fun stuff. But I like going back to the real players. I've been listening to a lot of blues, and so I wanted to pull him out. Even though I wouldn't consider him blues, it's kind of like almost like country picking meets jazz type of thing. And I want to incorporate that style into my playing. So I'm just like really marinating on it right now. I'm just trying to figure out how the heck he did it. I don't, I'm not quite sure, but I really love this guy, and he's one of my favorite guitar players. So.
And that amazes me, because I know the style of guitar that you play, and then to hear you talk about this, you're going back to the roots. It's kind of like what we were talking about with drums.
I mean, I think you should always be growing, whether it's listening to something new or listening to something old.
Absolutely.
But kind of pushing yourself, still keep your foundation, but you can grow, and it can make you better, you know? So this is my album of the week.
I love it. And on today's show, I am so excited because
I'm pretty pumped about this.
Our special guest is a dear old friend of mine. His name is Mike Vale, and Mike is one of the original Shondells. Not only was the bass player and a major part of the group, he was also one of the main songwriters for the Shondells. And when you hear the history, it's unbelievable. And, Mike and I have performed together, and I tried to, like a sponge, try to get as much out of it as I can, because when you hear his stories, they're just incredible.
Wow.
So we'll be
excited.
right back with Mike Vale, so stick around.
Jack in the Box.
Hey, welcome to another edition of Jack in the Box. Let me talk to you about the movie theaters. Remember that each neighborhood had their own show, their theater, and you would go up to the buy your ticket, and when you did, they had all these little lobby cards that told you about the movie and what was playing there. And it just went on and on. It got you excited to see the movie before you even got inside the doors. And then you start to walk through, and there's a whole line of these on walls walking into the entrance of the theater, and then you smell the popcorn. You know what I mean? Don't you wish those days were back again? The good old theaters, the good old lobby cards, and thanks for listening to Jack in the Box. welcome back. Before I introduce this gentleman, I want to ask you a couple questions. What comes to mind when you hear Mony Mony, Hanky Panky, Crystal Blue Persuasion, Think We're Alone Now, you name it, right? Well, this is what comes to mind. This is my buddy. This is Mike Vale, one of the original Shondells, and songwriter as well as bass player and dear friend. So,
What's up, big boy? Good
to
to see you.
man. It's like, and I want to introduce you to Byron.
How's it going? Welcome to the show, sir.
And
Pleasure, man.
we got a whole bunch of questions for you.
Yeah, let's go.
First of all, Mike, talk about the beginning and when it started for the Raconteurs and lead us into you becoming a Shondell.
You know, you and I fall on a very similar path. Back in my early days, my music was strictly R&B.
Yeah.
Porky Chedwick being the guy who introduced me. And I didn't really play an instrument for a long time because I loved the vocals so much.
Yeah.
You know, some of the groups back then were just so fabulous that I just wanted to sing. And I became pretty proficient at imitating the guys I loved and
Yeah.
being able to perform in that manner. So I joined a group. My first group, all I did was lead sing, but I didn't like that only because I had to get off stage once in a while, and I wanted the spotlight, man.
Yeah.
So I found out, you know, you better pick up an instrument and learn how to play. So it'd be a reason for you to be up there. So I picked up the bass and I started learning how to play the bass, and it was going pretty well. But I was only doing it for about 6 months or so, and we were playing in a club. I was with the Sonics, and we were playing in a club in Greensburg, Pennsylvania, and I was singing Georgia by my favorite, Ray Charles. And in walks, to me, what was the best group in Pittsburgh back then, called the Raconteurs. And I was just shaking because these guys were so good. And I always thought to myself, boy, if I could get with a group like the Raconteurs. And so they walked in, they saw me play a little bass, and I sang Georgia. And afterwards, Ron Rossman, who was the head of the group, came up to me and he says, hey, we're looking for a bass player. Would you be interested? And I said, why? Because I didn't think I played very well. And he said, we heard you sing a couple songs. He said, man, we really need that voice. And I says, well, I got news for you. I'd be thrilled to be on with the Raconteurs, but I'm not a good bass player. He said, we can fix that. I said, how are you going to fix that? And he said, well, there's a guy in the group, Raconteurs, called George Magora. George Magora was lights out, the best musician I've ever been around in my life. He says, we'll fix you, and we'll fix you fast. And he was right. He really put me through the ringer and made me practice every day. So I became pretty good at playing bass. Yeah. And so then I'm with the Raconteurs now. And we're in the club in Greensburg again. That's the story of our life. The club in Greensburg. Just keep building it up. But we're playing the Thunderbird Lounge in Greensburg, Pennsylvania. And in walks this young guy with his manager. And they sit down in the back of the room and they're listening to us play. And at the break time, the owner of the club says, hey, that kid wants to talk to you. I said, who is he? He says, I don't know. It's okay. So I went down. He says, my name is Tommy James. And he says, I've got this song that's starting to really catch on. And I need a group. And he says, you guys are just blew me away. He says, I really wish you could become the Shondells. And I said, what's the name of your song? He says, it's called My Baby Does the Hanky Panky. And I'm listening to Porky Chedwick. I don't know what's going on in the world out there on KDKA radio and all that stuff. And they're playing the heck out of this song. But I didn't know it. And I said, well, tell you what. I said, I'll talk to the guys. I said, I'm really not, because I didn't know, how big a deal this was. And I said, I'll talk to the guys and we'll let you know. So the next day, I worked in a machine shop besides playing music. I'm on my way to work. And I thought, I'm going to flip on some of these other stations and see if I can listen to that song. And here comes Clark Race. Clark Race says, we're going to play a song for you now that's just running up the charts. And mark my words, it's going to be #1 in the country. He says, it's My Baby Does a Hanky Panky by Tommy James.
You're like,
I made a U-turn in the middle of a 4-lane highway back to the house. And I called all the guys. I said, fellas, you know that window we've been trying to get open? It just flipped right up. I said, we better take this ride. So talked to everybody and said, let's go. So I called Tommy and I said, you're on, let's go. So
Nice.
that's how we became Shondells.
That's a great story.
The other thing I really love about your story, Mike, and getting with the Shondells was your role in the group. Not only were you part of the group and you sang, but you were one of the songwriters of the group.
Yes. Yeah.
And one story you told me, I'll never forget this story because it has to do with you and Tommy in New York and trying to write this song called Mony, Mony.
Right.
Can you lay that one on him?
Yeah. We were recording an album, putting an album together, and in between songs, we were just sitting around and start screwing around, playing riffs and different things. And the drummer starts starts into this nice riff, and I get the bass out and I'm going with it. All of a sudden we got this driving song, and we said, hey, that's great, we got to write this song. So Tommy and I and a few other guys got together, start writing the music, and we had it all written except it referred to a girl, and we didn't know what her name was. So we're trying to think, what are we going to do? How are we going to call it? This song is so good. We got a good, catchy name. So we're out on the balcony of Tommy's apartment overlooking the city of New York. And he looks up and he says, look up there. On the top of the building, there's this big sign going, lighting up, M-O-N-Y, M-O-N-Y. It's a Mutual of New York building. So Mony is the Mutual of New York symbol
great.
on top of the building in New York. But that was a great song. It did a great job for us.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And then, of course, the string of hits that you guys had.
Right.
And that led you to become not only national artists, but national TV appearances.
Right.
Now, I love the story you tell me about being on the Ed Sullivan Show. It is a bunch, but you can pick any one of them.
Well, Ed Sullivan was a real trip because Ed had a reputation of, toting a few, and he called. We performed the song, and he called us over after the song, and he says to Tommy, he says, "Where are you? You're from New York, right?" And Tommy says, "No, I'm from Michigan." He said, "Oh, okay." And he's talking a little more, and he says, you said you're from New York, right? He says, "No, I'm from Michigan." He said, "Well, next week," he says, no, this was the week before, that's a different story. He says, "Ladies and gentlemen, this man is going to be a big star in the rock and roll industry." He says, "From New York City, Tommy James and the Shine." But that's just the way. That's just the way Ed was,
Yeah.
But, there's other stories too, but they get into the tipping a little too much, and I don't want to do that.
Yeah, no, that's fine. And then later on, of course, Mike, you've been writing songs of your own,
Right.
which we had the pleasure of working with Mike on a couple different, and there's two of your songs that I absolutely love. And tell me the two I love.
Crystal Blue Persuasion
Yeah.
and Sweet Cherry Wine.
It's Sweet Cherry Wine.
Yeah.
And when we had the opportunity to perform with you guys, playing that, like, you're on stage and you're singing a song that you've heard on the radio 1,001 times, and then you realize that you were actually standing and performing
With the
with
person
the
who-
guys.
Yeah. I can see that.
And we traveled a little bit, and we went to Panama City. And what's it like down there with you? They love you so much down there. It's like,
It's a great area, and we could get down there anytime. By the way, I've had invitations since then to come back down.
Yeah,
It's
I
just
love
that with COVID and all, we've just had to hang it up for a while, so we can't do that. But you're right. I love Panama City, and they love us.
yes,
So
yes.
Tell me what it was like to hear your song redone. Like the big covers that happen of the songs. What was that like? Still being around, like, oh, that's my song, I wrote that. But
Yeah.
some people knowing only that version. You know.
Right. Personally, if it was something I wrote, I was initially critical because it didn't quite sound like us,
Yeah.
and like it was supposed to. Like I'm going to say, hey, it should sound like our version, and that's not true. But I was so critical about everything. But then I start seeing the returns, financial returns. Yeah. Hey, give me more of that.
Yeah, I got another song.
Yeah, and our stuff has been re-recorded so many times, people just don't realize. And we've been in at least 50 motion pictures with our songs. And that's a nice number, too.
Yes, it
feels
is.
great. But it feels great. And at this point, I invite it. I'm thrilled with it, yeah.
We were fortunate to be at a birthday party for Mike at his place down in, what's it called again? The Bay.
Panama City?
Panama, no, in Maryland.
Oh, Deep Creek Lake.
Deep Creek.
Oh, okay.
And it was kind of crazy because we're all sitting around, and it was most of the jam band, and we're just jamming, having some fun.
Right.
And Mike tells me the story about the first time this air conditioning guy came in to fix his air conditioning. You'll love it.
Yeah. Well, what happens is, first of all, let me go back a little further than that.
Yeah.
The situation we have with Tommy James is that lead singers are so possessive that they want, well, like I said, when I was lead singer of that first group,
Yep.
I wanted the spotlight. It's like, that's what he is like. And so we never got any PR at all. Nobody knew who the hell the group members were in the Shondells. They just didn't know us. And so to show to what extent that goes, I'm in Deep Creek Lake. That's where I live with my wife, Valerie. And on our wall, it's sort of like what you see here. But it's all Shondells stuff. All of our gold records and all of our different awards and different things, just plastered all over the place. And so one day our air conditioner broke down. And I told my wife, I said, would you please call so-and-so company and have them come fix it? And she said, yeah, okay. So sure enough, about 2 hours later, this guy shows up, and I'm downstairs watching TV. And we got a whole house system of audio system. And I always have the oldies on or R&B or something. And the oldies were on that day. And this guy walks in, and you could tell he loved music, especially our era. First of all, he was my age. Secondly, he was singing along with everything, you know. And so about an hour later, he comes downstairs to me, and he said, okay, I'm all done. He says, it'll be this much money. He gave me the bill. I says, fine. And while I'm working out a check, he's looking at everything on the walls. He's checking this out, checking that. And then he'd look at the gold record, and he'd look at me, and look at the awards.
I love that.
Look at me, and look at the pictures, and look at me. Finally, he came over to me, and he says, I got to tell you, I am impressed. I said, well, thank you very much. He said, no. He said, you don't understand. I am impressed. You have got to be the biggest Tommy James and the Shondells fan.
That's great.
So, nobody knows
see
who
it
the hell
going
we
there.
are. That's what I keep telling them.
Oh, wow. Jeez.
Well, what we're going to do now is that we're going to shoot something at you. We do this thing called 4 questions.
Okay.
And you want to kick it off this time, or you want me to kick it off?
Yeah, it's just a quick fire answer. Something old.
Something old, anything old. I'll throw a few nouns out at you, and you tell me what the subject is. Nutmegs, clovers,
I got it. Doo-wop.
something old. That,
Nice.
Yeah.
that stuff, he and I have cut our teeth on. And to this day, I can listen to it all day long.
I love that.
I just love it. But something, anytime you mention old to me, that's what comes to my mind.
Amen.
Because that's when I started to love music.
Yes.
And,
Yes.
I haven't lost my love.
Something new.
Something new. As you said, I write a lot.
Yeah.
And recently, about a year ago, I guess it was, COVID, as I said, took us off the road, and I wasn't doing anything musically at all. And I thought, well, I think I got one more song in me before the Lord takes me home.
Yes.
So I said, I'm going to write a song. And the song that I've been thinking about for a long time has to do with my wife, Valerie.
Oh.
And the name of the song is Reason for Being. She's my reason for being. And I finished the song, and I recorded it in Dawning Garden
I
Studio.
love it.
Oh, nice.
And the song is now on YouTube. So,
I didn't know that, Mike.
yeah, it's on YouTube.
Something treasured.
Well, that's easy. 8 great grandchildren.
Great grandchildren.
Wow.
We've had 4. My wife and I have had 4 children, 8 grandchildren, and 8 great grandchildren now, and we've been married for many years. I always mess this up. I'm afraid to even say it. Honey, close your ears for a second. 62, 3, 63
One off.
years.
That's pretty close though.
She'll talk to me when I go. Yep.
And something true.
Something true. Faith. When you use the word faith, people have a tendency to put you in some sort of a category. And I'm not saying it for that reason, but faith is true. No matter what you believe, if you have faith, that belief, your belief system, is true. To you in here, it's true. We know what ours is, and I'm sure you guys know what yours is.
Yeah.
But when you talk about true, it's faith.
Yes, yes. And that shows in your family. I mean, it's like a beautiful family. Well, I had so much fun with it. We could go on for
I
days
can tell.
because the stories
We
are
just hang out. We
unbelievable.
need to have a barbecue or something.
Yeah.
Podcast.
But I think what we need to do now is take a little break, and when we come back, I think we should jam. What do you
All
think?
right.
Okay.
Should we jam a little bit? Stick around. We'll be talking once again with Mike Vale.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Byron's Bodega. Today, I want to share with you one of my one and only Fender Stratocaster guitar. This was actually a gift from one of my fitness clients. We have this strong bond for music together, and I don't know, I was just talking about it, and hey, one day I got to get a Strat, I want to have a Tele, things like that. And months later, he surprised me with this gift. I actually nicknamed it my Prince guitar because of the awesome purple finish. I've always wanted one of these. It reminds me of like Hendrix and all those classic guitar players, Clapton, things like that. But this guitar is about to make its way into the rotation, but I wanted to share it with you because it's sort of my one and only, and I'm known for flying V's, and I wanted to let people know that I play other things as well. So again, here's my Fender Strat. Thank you very much for the gift. Thank you for tuning in. Stay tuned.
My baby does the hanky-panky. 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 I saw her walking on down the line. Saw her for the very first time. A pretty little girl standing all alone. Hey, pretty baby, can I take you home? I never saw her, never saw her. My baby does the hanky-panky.